Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet. We come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And so as we add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050, how we're going to be able to provide all the food, the fuel, the fiber, everything that's needed for these individuals that will be joining us. And also we'll have a planet by then that'll have almost 9 billion people. We have a gentleman who's sitting right beside me. Has been thinking about this for quite some time and looking from the standpoint of education, healthcare, but mostly looking at food and how we're going to have food security and tying all that together. This is Hasan. He is the managing partner of a very unique name, EARTHOPIA. And welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hancock. Great to be here.
Mo, glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about EARTHOPIA.
So, EARTHOPIA is really out to ask a question in the world of what would the planet be like if every child had access to a world-class education and an abundance of real food. And when we started looking at that question of what would the world be like, the first thing is we're not sure what the world would be like, but we're willing to find out. That's a mission and a journey that we're willing to find out. And then we started looking at how do we create a world that really works. And initially the conversations led us to what's wrong, who's to blame, and those are very short conversations with no real solutions and didn't go very far. So then we started asking different questions. We started asking the question of what's missing in the world, that the presence of which would make the difference. Mm-hmm. And when we look at just hunger alone, in last year in 2014, the numbers aren't finalized yet, but we are well over $100 billion spent around the world on just the issue of hunger. Over 25 million people worked on the issue. Yet, if you look at the results, we have what we have.
Yeah, they say that actually there's enough food being produced almost for 13 to 15 billion people on the planet, but yet less than half of that is actually getting from the farms and the forests and the gardens, onto the table. So I think what you're doing is you're looking at it, how do we connect all this together so that there's no waste and increase the efficiency? Is that kind of where EARTHOPIA is going?
You're absolutely correct on that, and the magical word being connect. And because what we found and what was missing in the world is collaboration. Is that we'll look at village projects that are happening in India and Africa, and you'll find 15 different organizations in the same village with the same mission, and none of them talk to each other.
Yeah, and they're all duplicating resources and expenditure of time and all of that. So
yes.
If we can bring up these slides, we got some really dynamic slides that Mo has provided for us, and we'll have these going on in the background. But go ahead, about your projects in all these different countries.
So what we started to do is we looked for, all right, if we're going to make something that works, if we're going to create a planet that works, it really has to start by us working together. And so we started looking for partners that are already doing well in the areas in which we want to serve. So out of India, we found a partner named Ecol Vidalia, and Ecol has built over 55,000 village schools in the last 25 years.
How many schools?
Over 55,000.
55,000 schools, that's incredible. If you said 5,000, I'd be well, but that's overwhelming. 55,000 schools, that's incredible.
It's been amazing what they've accomplished so far. And so we approached Ecol with the idea of how can we help you grow, how can we expand? So now our partnership has expanded into a few different things as far as projects are concerned. And one of the projects we're doing right now with Ecol that we're very excited about is happening in a village resource center in India, supporting 100 villages. And what we're doing is we're creating technology solutions for villagers to learn sustainable agriculture practices, solar cookers, clean water practices, basic health, medicine, and to bring these projects to villages through children and through education.
Well, see, that goes back to the old 4-H model of the cooperative extension in the United States, is that you reach the parents through educating the children. So you're using this proven model. And also, too, in these schools that you have, and we have some photographs of these. Are you tying the adults into this after the school hours? Then the farmers can come in and use the computers and take advantage of some of the solar lighting and all those things?
Absolutely. We're looking for how do we bring in the whole community. It really does take a village to really create life. And so we're looking at adults, seniors, and this is something that we're finding not just in villages in India, but this is happening in the US as well, where we have the largest population ever, the largest generation moving into retirement, and many of them are asking the question of, boy, what do I do next? And so we want to make sure that we create opportunities for everyone to really advance. And I think it's kind of ridiculous in this day and age for us to have hungry people on the planet.
Yeah, looking at, the next question is going to be is really some of these critical issues as far as education, but really you've already kind of leaped forward into that on this collaboration as far as the elders and the adults and the communities working with the youth. And so they're all being educated together, if I understand what it is that you're saying. So how do you support, foster that synergy so that everyone feels like they're moving forward, they're learning, helping each other, wisdom of the elders, and the enthusiasm and energy of the youth?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it has a lot to do with how we take care of ourselves as an organization and how we treat our volunteers and what we do with our volunteers. So the first thing we've taken on is ensuring that we use world-class business practices moving forward, making sure that we use the best of breed in technologies for everything that we do. And for me personally, what I do on the corporate side is I do corporate training and development. So I do that for my well-paying clients, but in the nonprofit world, it's often a second guess of like, how should we run this meeting? We just had a 6-hour meeting. Was it useful? And so we make sure that our meetings are concise. We make sure that in our meetings, the listening that's there is actually designed for effectiveness so that we can be on point. And we have some interesting issues that we have to deal with as a team. Like one of the major problems we deal with our volunteer team is that they all love each other. And it's a real big issue because everyone wants to just love each other all the time and talk. And it's like, well, we also have business to get done.
In other words, we have some activities that we need to create at the same time.
Yes.
Because in the DC environment, a lot of it's about process, but also when you're in the developing world specifically, but any community in North America, it must be also about product.
Yes.
So how do you balance this process with product? You're just talking a little bit about that, but what's in the structure, what's in with the instruction, the education, so that people feel the necessity to do both?
Well, perfect. That's a great question. And it's one of those things that in life, oftentimes you can say that the results you produce are a direct result of your education and your experience. The challenge is most of us are not getting a great education in the public sector. And so what we've created is actually a training and development program internally for all EARTHOPIA volunteers, where we give them ongoing training and development in things like technology, communication, neuroscience, because we think it's really important for you to have emotional intelligence and understand when you're in survival mode versus when you're actually creating things and getting things done. And so we train all of our volunteers ongoing about a whole range of different things, and we plan to continue to expand that training and development, and that's how we can expect that the products that we're creating are going to be great. Now the other part of it is we're looking for best of breed, so we start with best of breed. And that makes life a whole lot easier rather than starting from scratch. So it's our partners that are really helping us reach a lot of success.
But looking at this, you're taking people, let me just go back to these photographs we have right here. So you're taking whatever comes from the village or these local communities, and so when you're saying as for the best practices, the best of the best that you have, what you're doing is you're setting the expectations, and no matter what your background is, we already consider you to be the best of the best within this community, and then you're enhancing that with the expectation that they're going to perform to the level that you expect.
Yes.
Is that where you're going with all this?
That's exactly where I'm going with this. And there's a philosophy in education that human beings can be unlocked. I've seen it time and time again because I teach adults for a living, and I've seen corporate executives who for 30 years thought they can only do this. And then all of a sudden, through the magic of transformational education, they discover, wow, I can do a whole lot more with the rest of my career. I may have been a jerk executive for X number of years, but all of a sudden, wait, I can actually be nice to people and get things done.
Right, and when you're doing that, and also, again, setting expectations of this process and product at the same time. So just like this office scene we have here, using all the technology, and and this is part of the theme of this particular program, It's about, you know, innovation as a core, sustainability, technological advancements, and resiliency. But at the same time, it's really the people that's driving the technology, not just technology. Just technology is just sitting there.
Yes.
You have to have this human capital. So like these people sitting around the table and these villagers that we've seen, how do you go about unlocking that besides the enthusiasm, the education? What other, is there a special sauce in this whole thing that
there
you're
is a special
looking for?
sauce to all of it, and really what we use is this magical thing called science. And you know, the last 20 years have been phenomenal in brain science advancements. And we've learned more about how people learn and how people actually respond, how they work in groups and do self-governance and all of these things. All of these studies have finally been done, and we can measure and test these things. So one of the things that we do is we make sure that every aspect of our business was created. It was not an autopilot reaction to an issue, a trial or tribulation that now is a workaround that became a business process. So we ensure that we inspect everything that we do, and the way we inspect it is by caring for one another. We find that human empathy is a very powerful tool in business process analyzation.
And then how does innovation, how does that go in and inoculates everything that you have so that you're, again, putting in something there that's going to foster more than what it was in the past?
Well, this is a great point, and this really ties in with the technology innovation that exists in software, hardware, and everything else going on around the world, with the conversations that people are having, and especially when we talk about senior citizens or villagers or wherever we are. There's this global conversation of, I'm too old, so I cannot learn it, right? Oh, I'm over the hill, or no, that's not my native language, or there's all these beliefs that people have about what they are able to learn. Mm-hmm. So a big part of the work that we do in our training and development is actually teaching people how to learn. And then what they really discover is that they don't really need many teachers anymore, at least not in the traditional sense. Now teachers can facilitate learning, and kids can learn at a much more accelerated pace.
Yeah, and looking at, you know, the elders in these villages, that's something in dealing with Native Americans in the United States, is really most of the wisdom you need already resides in that particular community, regardless of socioeconomic background. Yes. And then when you take that and match it with the technology and the innovation of the youth and their energy, you know, it's almost a perfect match.
Yes.
So that's exactly what you're talking about. We're almost out of time. 15 seconds. It's got to be quick. Where do you see yourself being in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Where we see ourselves in the next 5, 10, 15 years is actually having a global curriculum created that we can give away to the planet for almost nothing, so that we can provide that world-class education. We're going to teach children around the world.
Sounds like a great price. Anyway, Mo Hasan, sitting right beside me, is the managing partner of EARTHOPIA, which is a fantastic name, and sounds like you're doing absolutely wonderful things in many different countries. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis, looking at 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And at the same time, we're looking for the people and the processes. We're looking for those that are actually creating those new technologies that are going to move us forward as we add 2 billion people to the planet. And we must accommodate at an increasing quality of life some 9 billion people by 2050. And by the end of the 21st century, there may be as many as 11 to 13 billion people on the planet, depending on what scientists and what research that you're looking at. But a very dynamic lady that I met some time ago is doing fantastic work in a place out in Southwest Virginia called Wise. It's a great name. It's a very beautiful area, and I love that area. This is Karen D. Sorber. She is Executive Chair, CEO of what's called MICRONIC Technologies. And sitting right beside me is Hasan, who is the Managing Partner of EARTHOPIA, and he's the special guest and Skype backup. Karen, you're coming in by Skype, and welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Well, thank you very much for having me this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with both of you and share our story.
Well, and we have your logo right behind us. They'll be coming up in just a minute. But tell us a little bit about your company, the MICRONIC Technologies. And since I've already introduced Wise, tell us a little bit about that most gorgeous area of Virginia and the planet, actually.
Well, you really can't beat it down here. It's God's country for sure. We started our company in 2008 in Northern Virginia, and we're reasonably successful there in getting our pilots in the lab established to clean water. But this last year, we were very successful in getting grants. And part of that had to do with us coming down to Wise, Virginia. We were successful in getting a state grant where we had partnered with University of Virginia at Wise. And there you see some of our team in our temporary facility in Wise.
Now tell us a little bit, Karen, about the University of Virginia at Wise. That many people don't know about that. It's one of those jewels out there in the corner of the tip of Virginia. And so you're actually introducing it not only to the world, but also to many Virginians and people in the Mid-Atlantic states.
Well, I tell you, I didn't know about University of Virginia at Wise. It's a college that's affiliated with the University of Virginia. Dr. Donna Henry is the chancellor, and she and I met about a year ago. And it's a liberal arts school, and they have a lot of interest in the ecosystems of Southwest Virginia and trying to save some of the very precious fish and wildlife in the area, particularly in the Clinch River. It's nationally known for the number of mussels, I believe, in terms of the variety of mussels in the Clinch River. So they're trying to save it and improve the quality of the ecosystem. And so because it's water related and we clean water and we have an opportunity to work with their professors, it was a good match. It's a beautiful little campus. There's about 2,500 students there each year. Wonderful interns. We've hired 2 graduates from there already since we moved down in June.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. And also, too, something, you're very near the New River, which supposedly is the second oldest river after the Nile on the planet. So you're in a very historical and ecologically significant area. MicroDesal, I think that's a name familiar to you. That's your technology. Tell us a little bit about that and how that starts to fit in with your location and then its impact towards the world and adding these 2 billion new people.
All right. Well, microdesal is the trade name of our device, which is a mechanical device that cleans water from any source. It is a mechanical device that creates a tornado inside of a chamber and rapidly evaporates water almost instantaneously. So any water that comes into the chamber is cleaned. It could be water from a river, from a fracking facility, an industrial wastewater. It could be a nuclear site. It could be acid mine drainage, agricultural runoff. It really doesn't matter what water you throw at it, it cleans it. It takes out the solids, the dissolved solids, suspended solids, the metals, the bacteria. Because it's an evaporative process within a mechanical chamber, it evaporates everything and the vapor then comes back into clean water, much like distillation, but it's low heat and low pressure. So it's novel. We have one patent issued and another one almost out the door, and several in process. It's a new technology. It's novel, it's innovative, it's disruptive, and we're in development and soon to be taking field pilots into several markets.
Well, that leads, boy, she really teased it up for you, Mo. Okay, Mo's going to ask the next question, and that follows right on to your statement right now, Karen. Go ahead, Mo.
So, Karen, what are some critical issues that are surrounding water right now, and what about your solutions are unique regarding those issues? And I know it's a little bit different than the original question, so if that's
fine.
Okay.
So, you mentioned how much the population is growing on the planet. Well, we don't have any more water than we did a bazillion years ago, and we're less than 1% of the water on Earth are we really able to access for drinking water. And so what's happening is that there's a need to reuse that water. There's some 400 billion gallons of water each day that's not reused in this country alone. If we can reuse it efficiently to make it available for whether it's drinking or other types of activities that you would use water for in the fields, it's going to be much better for the planet. I learned early on in the business that it's very difficult to get everything out with one pass. We, however, are able to get everything out of the water in one pass. Usually you have 3 or 4, maybe 5 different kinds of processes that would need to be used to take the constituents out of the water. We can do it in one pass. That's what's unique about us. And because we're the environmental issues that have occurred over the years with water, it's important for us to find new ways of cleaning it. And the old ways are just not sufficient. In order to bring food to the people that you're so badly wanting to bring food to throughout the world, you need to have water. You need to have water to grow it. You need to have water to clean it. You need to have be able to use the wastewater in ways that are efficient. So I learned this personally firsthand when I was in Peru. Just a year before we started the company, I learned firsthand how very difficult it is for people in developing countries to get clean water, and it affects their health and their everyday life. And there's such a tremendous relationship between food and water and energy. That nexus is critical, and we believe that our technology will move forward the opportunity to clean water in an efficient way and help provide food around the world.
Karen, quick question. Looking at this one pass, that must reduce the energy cost dramatically. So can you tell us a little bit about cutting back on the use of fossil fuels? And even if you're not having to use renewables, every 1 kilowatt that you don't need is a huge savings to the environment. So tell us a little bit about the efficiency of the technology that you have.
Fair enough. Good question. So because these systems I mentioned earlier, you may have 4 or 5 systems that would be used to clean water, we would be able to displace the capital costs and the operating costs and the infrastructure for those systems. So you would be eliminating the footprint for the physical systems for 3 or 4 different kinds of water treatment capability that we can do in one pass. We have a smaller footprint, and we'd be eliminating other capital requirements and physical infrastructure for cleaning. For example, you may have something that's going to take care of the bacteria. You may have another technology that's going to take care of the suspended solids, and yet another one for the dissolved solids and metals and so forth, not to mention all the chemicals. All of that goes away with our system. Now, we are in development, and we do have energy as part of our expense, but we anticipate being able to use waste heat as well as and cogeneration in operating our system as we get into the field.
Yeah, looking at the whole notion of fracking, of course, this is one of the main issues now, not only in the United States, but also in Europe and Asia and different places like that. So how are you able to address that particular issue in a way that you can address the fracking water at the well site and or to consolidate that so it's something that's processed locally and it's not being brought out and then trucked, you know, tens, hundreds, thousand miles away to be able to be addressed and be sure to protect the water sources, you know, wherever the fracking may be happening?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a complex question as well. But the short answer is the very, very high degree of contamination that you find in the water that comes back out of the earth from a fracking site. It might be as much as 200 or 300 parts per million of TDS, total dissolved solids. In the ocean, for example, you only have 35,000 parts per million. But in the fracking flowback water, it's very, very high in what they call TDS, and remains so. And there's no treatment except for either distillation at a central site or trucking it off in deep well, injecting it. We anticipate that we'd be able to use our system on site to be able to clean it, and then that water be immediately reused for some other beneficial environment, or to be reused in another fracking exercise, but it would be cleaned up water. Now, to the company's credit, many of them are now reusing that water for their fracking, and they're not wasting it, but there still is a drain on the system, and we'd be able to help out, I think.
Okay, Mo has a question, and we must do this within about 20 seconds, and then I have one last question, and then we're flat out of time. Mo, pretty quick.
Thank you, Karen. You're doing with some awesome technology, and I was just curious, what other technologies do you see as opportunities that are upcoming regarding water?
What other technologies, or what other markets for us?
Well, I guess maybe some,
the markets.
Markets. Spaces. Sorry.
Okay, so the markets for us in the short term are going to be agricultural runoff for nitrates and nitrites. We got a U.S. Department of Agricultural grant for that. We also have a Chesapeake watershed grant from U.S. Department of Agriculture, and that we're going to be working on that. Military, the Navy has given us a grant that's wonderful for.
Karen, we're going to lose you. Where do you see yourselves going in the next 5 or 10 years? You got about 10 seconds. Make quick.
Provide clean water solutions for people around the world.
Fantastic. Karen Sorber, Executive Chair, CEO, Micron Technologies. Thank you.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours? Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we look around the globe in 144 countries looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, the products, and also the people that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we look around the globe and we're rapidly urbanizing, it's amazing. We have a country as big as the United States, and to think that over 80% of the total population of almost 320 million people are now living in urban areas within this country. In Brazil, it's now 87%. And so when we look at supposedly by 2050, 54% of the world's population will be living in urban areas, I think we're already way beyond that, and we certainly need to revise our thinking. And this gentleman that's coming on is helping us to do all that. This is Doug Harrison. He's the President and Chief Operating Officer for what's called LandFAX USA. And sitting right beside me is Hasan, who is a Managing Partner of EARTHOPIA, and both of you are very concerned about urban areas. And Doug, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you. Good to see you guys again.
I'm glad to have you out with us on Emerald Planet. Tell us a little bit about your company, the LandFAX USA.
Well, here at LandFAX USA, what we do is we prepare reports that describe real estate intelligence. We prepare what's called a feasibility study that provides information that helps an investor look at a piece of property and be informed about the risks of it before they purchase it, therefore not making a poor investment or being unhappy with their property. So essentially what we do is we prepare this report that identifies risks in about, depending on the jurisdiction, we have 50 different layers of information. This can include zoning, topography, soils, survey control points, restrictive areas like historical standings, sensitive species. We do density, population density and demographic analysis, permissible uses, traffic volumes, crime, public safety, like EMS location proximities, hospitals, education reports for all levels of education, and hazards, whether it's a natural hazard like a floodplain or a man-made hazard, say like a toxic release inventory site.
Yeah, you talk about that, Doug. Looking at LandFAX, you were talking about the potential purchaser of land, but also you're working with local governments and various civic organizations as well. So tell us about this balance between the private sector, governments, and then also how you can work with the local communities in order to approve what they're doing.
Right. So we have essentially 4 different areas of business. We have the feasibility report that I just mentioned that was basically for investors in the private and commercial sector. We do traditional GIS services for government at all levels. We have experience in local jurisdictions all the way up to Fed or agency management background. We do value-added databases that basically shuffle data from different, say, demographics and a hazard site. That can be used by pretty much anybody, whether it be investors, whether it be, it's useful information to anybody who deals with land. And we also do what we call customized queries, which is essentially site selection. Again, that can be for the private sector, government, or nonprofit. But basically what we try to do there is come up with the criteria, whether it's something that we created in our database that makes sense, or the end user, say a nonprofit who's looking to protect a certain piece of land and the criteria. And so we do that and come up with a good site selection criteria.
Doug, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit, and I'm going to come back to Mo, but you're talking about the GIS. Tell us what is GIS, because this is being broadcast abroad as well. And then also looking at urban sprawl, we talked about this rapid urbanization of the planet. Tell us about that and how the LandFAX can work in to notify people as far as where the demographics are going, and maybe how to better manage and even in some cases control where this population is going to be going and providing the services that are needed.
Information systems. So it has the tradition. So if you were to look at a paper map, say like a road map, you have a series of points, lines, polygons that represent roads or schools or a park, say. So each one of those types of data is put into a different, and each one of them has a spatial component. Additionally, behind each of those features, if you were to click on, say, a school, it would say what school it is, address, how many students, or what the flood zone is in a particular area, or address range of a road. What's nice about it is you can click on a piece of information and come up with basically an inventory. You're also able to ask spatial questions. So you might avoid putting them a certain area of development and what they have. Some percent of anything that you deal with is going to have a spatial component. About something like urban sprawl, there's been growth in the economy as it spreads out. As it become more prominent, people want other people. As education technologies allow people to work remotely, as well as things like addition improvements. We deal with subject matter economics or environmental factors, and we can take their models and integrate it into a GIS and visualize what would be happening in future, and it's a valuable tool. So, decide where a road's going to be, what makes most sense, what the
I think we're running into some technical difficulties here. Mo, let's talk going back while let's see if the engineers can bring Doug back in, but looking at the work that you're doing, you're working with youth all over the planet.
Yes.
So how are you tying in this balance between the rural and the urban areas that Doug Harrison was talking about of LandFAX?
Well, there's an interesting pattern that's been happening for the last 40 years or so of this migration of villagers going to big cities. And one of the things we're looking to do is actually build infrastructure in villages that would draw someone from a city to actually go live in a village. And there's a lot of great villages, and we're not talking about villages where people are living in the dirt and there's flies buzzing around them. We're talking about villages where there's love present. We're talking about villages where there's community and education, and the gap between the generations is tied in together with love. And so there's infrastructure that, and technology is like, so I think when it comes down to the luxuries that we enjoy in the modern world, such as climate control, clean water, having access to energy, all those things.
Yeah, I think that's really the work that you're doing is very important, and also ties in with what Doug is doing as far as looking at these communities, seeing how they're expanding, where you need to have the critical infrastructure. And Doug, now that you're back looking at the work that you're doing as far as the GIS program, we missed a little bit of what you had to say there. Can you tell us again a little bit about the GIS and how you're actually using that to look at critical infrastructure, both existing and where you're going in the future, where communities need to go? We can use this map right here as an example.
Right. So the GIS is going to serve as an inventory. So it's, you have an inventory of all the features that are shown on them, as well as a spatial query. I don't know if you heard me before, we're talking about what toxic release sites might be within a floodplain. But then what you can also do is take models, say an economic model or an environmental model or transportation model, and integrate that into a GIS to take a predictive and calibrate your choices, management choices, based on what makes the most sense. And that's where I think GIS is a great tool for this kind of thing.
Yeah, now looking at this particular map that we have right in front of us, and maybe we've lost, Doug, are you still with us? Okay, Mo, I think we've lost you too.
I can hear you.
Okay, we lost the image there. Looking at the work that you're doing and the tying together the GIS and looking again at this urban sprawl, how can you advise local communities and the governments within those areas that really need to work with in a collaborative fashion with the local communities to bring about the best infrastructure that they need and also the best economic development tools at the same time?
Right. Well, I come from an emergency management background, and I learned early in my career that, say, something like GIS serves best in a hub of information. So I would exercise with environmental people, government, military, is a certain area will include many more than just one discipline. So say an area where a civil engineer might look at a problem one way and an economist another, an environmentalist another, when it's put in, we're talking different, for example, and often but then an innovative idea.
Mo, looking at the work that you're doing, and as you said, over the last 40 years, we've really been looking at this rapid urbanization, whether it's in India, China, Brazil, the United States. So how do you see looking at, as far as your organization, EARTHOPIA, of as you move forward in the 21st century, of how you're going to be able to accommodate all this as people really are transitioning in places like Central America and Africa, Southeast Asia, are rapidly urbanizing?
Well, I think that, if we look at the root cause of why do people go to urban environments, the traditional reason is opportunities. That there's shared resources there that are going to be abundant. There's going to be access to all the things that you typically cannot get in a village. The reality is, for most people who make that migration pattern, they end up in the lowest levels of wealth. They end up oftentimes in crime and other things. And so some of what it all really comes down to is if we could just get to the source of what people actually want, rather than telling them what they want, like actually asking them what they want, I think we'll discover that there's a whole lot that can be done where people already are.
We're going to lose you. Mo, tell us, where do you think we're going to be as far as working in rural urban areas of the developing world over the next 5-10 years? You got to be quick.
All right, so I think what we see is we're going to see a merger of the best modern world and the old world.
Fantastic. And we had Doug Harrison, President, Chief Operating Officer of LandFAX. We have Mo sitting right beside me as we look around the world to create the Emerald Planet.
Some dreams are universal. Dreams that inspire us. Multiple sclerosis is a devastating disease that changes lives forever. The National MS Society does more for people with MS than any organization in the world. But we can't do it alone. To get involved, visit us online at nationalmssociety.org or call 1-800-FIGHT-MS. This is why we're here. Because nobody dreams of having multiple sclerosis.
What's wrong with this picture? Half of young Americans can't locate economic powers like Japan and India. 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. Without geography, our children aren't ready for the world. Geography is everywhere. It's incredible creatures, rhythm, fashion, flavor, It's economics and politics. It's change. Understanding connections between people and places is critical in the 21st century. That's why we created mywonderfulworld.org. Go there now for your free parent and teacher action kits and give our kids the power of global knowledge. Because kids who understand our world today can succeed in it tomorrow.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products as we move through the 21st century. I am Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and Director and host of the Emerald Planet TV, and we come to you on a weekly basis as we do look around the globe. And we have a gentleman that's going to be joining us and talking about innovation, technologies, and advancements, both for precision ag and many other topics. This is John Rimanelli, who is the chairman of Detroit Aircraft Corporation. And sitting right beside me is Hasan, who is the managing partner for EARTHOPIA. And John, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hancock. Thanks for having me.
I tell you, it's exciting, all the things we see in these images right behind you. But tell us first about this exciting organization, the Detroit Aircraft Corporation.
Well, I'd be happy to, Doctor. Detroit Aircraft is actually a very old name with a new mission. The original company was founded in 1922 by Edsel Ford and William Stout, ultimately becoming the largest aircraft company in the world by 1929, owning the largest brands of the day to include Lockheed Corporation as well as Ryan Aircraft, famous for the Spirit of St. Louis. I learned about this history some years ago. They were shuttered. The company was shuttered in 1933 by the Great Depression, and today, Lockheed Martin is currently employing 120,000 employees, and with annual turnover of roughly $45 billion. Sort of inspired by that story, I decided to restart the company back in 2011 with the aim of mass production of small unmanned systems for civil and commercial applications that you discussed. I'm happy to say that some 82 years later, we are now back together with Lockheed and serving the emergency response and ag markets.
Now, looking at the UAVs, the unmanned aerial vehicles, as they're called, mostly people think of them in terms of the military. Yet in the 21st century, this is actually one of those real boom areas as far as green technologies and advancements, new creative jobs and innovation and all that. So how are you able to take a very old company, Detroit Aircraft Corporation, and this thing is being morphed into something that's actually going to be a leader as we move through the 21st century?
Well, as you look at the AIA overview on the screen here, there's unmatched potential. We're looking at $89 billion in global market for unmanned systems. For everything from rhinos to emergency response to precision agriculture. It's really just the opportunity for innovation in unmanned systems and their application is so broad that we're looking at literally a whole new industry in front of us.
Yeah, looking at this too, and I'm going to turn over to Mo in just a minute for a follow-on question, but this whole thing as far as disaster recovery and projections and planning and humanitarian aid, I mean, there's so many uses for these UAVs that I don't think we even have a grasp, John, about the total magnitude of this. Can you tell us something about the breadth and the depth of what we're going to be seeing, say, over the next 10, 15, 20 years for UAVs?
Wow. Well, over the next 5 years, my expectation is that Detroit Aircraft will lead the nation in providing small unmanned systems for emergency services. Beyond that, literally these small unmanned aircraft systems really represent the foundation of a very highly automated air transportation, air mobility future, leverage hybrid electric and gas propulsion technologies. I expect, that over the course of the next 10 years, there's roughly 20,000 airports in the United States, of which about 124 are accessible to the average middle-class American traveler, which is really shocking because really, if you look at this from a national networking standpoint, we have essentially a nation that's dark with nodes for air mobility. So what I see is, hybrid electric aircraft systems that will network the nation's 20,000 airports to provide, cargo delivery as well as air transportation for the average middle-class American.
I tell you, it's really exciting, and what you're talking about, John, is literally possibly tens of thousands of new jobs are going to be coming on the horizon, no pun intended. Mo, why don't you take the next question?
So, John, UAVs are super awesome. The question I have for you is, why would we use UAVs in agriculture, and how do you actually apply that?
It's a great question, Mo. Well, there's basically three areas where unmanned aircraft systems apply in agriculture, from plant research to crop production to crop protection. And I'll just give you a couple of examples in each. So from a research standpoint, we can do canopy profiling, we can do water assessments and surveys, we can measure methane and CO2 levels. From a crop production standpoint, currently the way farmers go out and evaluate their crop health is they actually have to go out and walk and scout the field without any aerial actionable intelligence. So what we're able to do is scout thousands of acres of crop in a fraction of the time and look at the growing stages and crop status, yield estimates using multispectral imaging and post-processing that and providing prescriptive advice to farmers on where they need to add water, pesticides, fertilizer, or additional reseeding the crop. From a protection standpoint, we all know that we can prevent birds. I mean, these are essentially flying scarecrows. I mean, if you think about it, we can prevent birds that can cause disease to crops. I mean, we can detect and track plant health and disease. We can also help fend off some of the wildlife that may consume some of these high-value crops.
It's absolutely, like I said, it's just, the mind can't even grasp, I think, all the opportunities out there, John. But looking at for the new jobs and this balance between civil, commercial, and even down to retail now, because you're talking about these major shipping companies using this to even deliver pizza to people's homes. So how do we balance that so that we tie together the commercial, the humanitarian, educational, and all the other services that for both projects and activities?
Well, we could have a show just on the job creation opportunities that will come from commercial integration of unmanned aircraft, or popularly known as drones. But from a high level, Doctor, there's going to be a tremendous demand for UAV pilots to go out and collect data. We don't expect that in what we're understanding as farmers and owners of infrastructure don't actually want to own the assets. They actually want to hire the service. So essentially we would have UAV pilots armed with the aerial vehicle and the sensor. They go out, collect the data, post-process it, and provide actionable intelligence to farmers and infrastructure owners across the United States. As I mentioned, the applications for these are broad. New applications are developing every day. From a humanitarian perspective, my opinion, this is probably one of the moral responsibilities of of companies like mine and that of the United States is to ensure that this technology is made accessible and available to the people that need it most. And those are the folks on the front line of defending the United States here at home that, from disaster scenarios. I mean, there are various locations throughout the United States that suffer from earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and or massive snowstorms. And we're seeing these incredible snowstorms, and these cars are being buried, and we're all sort of taught to not leave your vehicle when you're in an emergency. And what we're able to do is use our aircraft to scout these situations and identify all the thermal hotspots where folks could have been buried in snow and ultimately saving some lives. The ability to respond to disaster scenarios that happen throughout the United States. So we just need to introduce this technology to kids at all levels, get them excited about STEM-based careers. And this is exciting for us as adults. I mean, kids obviously will gravitate towards this as a natural career path.
Yeah, explain STEM for our audiences that may not know the acronym.
So that's science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that's very clear. But looking at zero carbon emissions from these unmanned aerial vehicles, tell us a little bit about that and how actually you're providing more service using this at a very rapid rate and greatly reducing the amount of energy, whether it's going to be carbon-based or renewables that's needed, and at the same time performing at a much higher proficiency.
Well, sir, our aircraft are all electric. We use electric motors, lithium polymer batteries, and as electric propulsion technology and battery technology improve, we'll see more and more electric propulsion in small unmanned systems, from freight delivery to passenger delivery. We expect that there'll be opportunities to harvest solar energy to charge our unmanned aircraft systems, as well as ground control stations. We really see this as an opportunity to, as I mentioned, unmanned systems represents a foundation for a highly automated air transportation future. There is technology that we're working on today that will enable us to remotely charge aircraft systems while they're in flight, leveraging lasers. And this is not sci-fi.
This is exciting, John. We're flat run out of time. Where do you see your organization being in next 5 or 10 years? And you got to be quick because we're ready to go out.
5 years, we're gonna lead the nation in emergency services, providing vehicles that can help save lives. 10 years from now, we're gonna lead the nation in networking the national airspace and providing air travel for the middle-class American. Beyond that, it's gonna be pretty exciting.
John Rimanelli, Chairman, Detroit Aircraft Corporation, thank you for being with us. Mo, thank you for being with us. You're absolutely charming, very intelligent, and very informative. And thank you to Virus. Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.